Welcome back to our work meeting this evening.
Surgery on
Try to
his
get through
hand
this
before he
pretty
could
quickly,
get
get everybody out of here.
Still hitting like that.
Mike
Move on to
Anderson
item
was
2.4.
the orthopedic surgeon that did most of my knees.
Harriman Main Street project scope discussion. Bryce, you on with this?
Yes,
This one,
yes, sir.
shoulder.
We got some ideas. That's over there, their big house.
I hate this.
Yeah.
Their house was pretty cool.
They lived in our ward and then they moved up on the hill.
So as John's pulling that up,
Is that
we have been working towards a design on our Harriman Main Street project. So if you recall,
that's where
back a little bit ago, the state legislature passed a bill that would grant cities a certain amount of money over a time period for roadway projects. So for Harriman, we were approved $800,000 a year for 15 years. And we discussed that as a group here to bond for that money up front and use it towards a substantial project instead of try to use that small amount of money over several years. So we
done 6,000 less, I'm just saying.
so
I had that on the, knew that was coming tonight.
yeah, right. So
In the CIP.
So we went ahead and got that bond, so it's for $10.5 million, as far as the bond money goes. And we have gotten to a point in the design that we have some cost estimates back on Harriman Main Street widening project. We're at 30% on the design, and we've got our first cost estimates back on the project. So as you can imagine, the costs came in very high. So our full cost estimate to go from what we were originally planning, which was 6250 west, where the sidewalk, curb and gutter ends right now on Main Street, all the way west out to 7300 west, was $17 million.
Sheesh.
So you can imagine there's a little bit of a gap there in funding to make this happen. There, again, this is a 30% cost estimate, so we're at 30% design, so they have a pretty good idea on significant infrastructure that will be impacted by this project. So we have a pretty good idea. Obviously, these cost estimates are gonna get kind of nailed down as we get closer to a final design. But this is a significant gap that we need to maybe talk about changing the design or changing the scope of the project. So we wanted to come and discuss options for bringing us down on design or on total project costs down closer to that 10.5 million that we have in bond money. There are a couple things off the top that we can do to reduce the cost. One of these things is there were some water lines we were including as part of the project. Taking that out of the project as paid by the bond and taking the water fee or the water budget to pay for those improvements. So that's about 1.5 million of the project that we can already take out without doing anything else, just having water pay for those improvements. Again, still some significant ground to make up to be able to get to where we need to be. So down here at the bottom, this is what our original design and is our standard for a major collector in Harriman right now. So it's a 3-lane improvement and then buffered bike lanes on the outside of that, which at intersections turn into right turn lanes. So this is a little bit updated from some of our older roads. Rosecrest is built to the same width, so it has the very wide shoulders. There's just not buffered bike lanes on it. That's been an updated standard since Rosecrest was built.
It also helps with proper striping and prevents parking.
Right, exactly. So this, so like I said, we created some options to look at on bringing the project down to the project budget. So I'll kind of go through all three of these options, but essentially, if we wanted to simplify it, it's the cost of the project is a combination of two things. The cross-section, or how wide and what you include in the cross-section, times how long you want the project to go. So we're gonna discuss those two elements. How far do we wanna go with the project, and how many improvements do we wanna include for that length? So I'll kind of walk through these real quick. And I'll actually work backwards on this. It makes a little more sense if I do this. So option 3 is keep everything in there. Everything that we designed, this is how far we think we can go. From 6250 west, where the widening ends right now, out to about Twisted Oak Drive, which is about where Hidden Oak starts. So that would be if we kept full improvements. One of the other major costs we have is that we have aerial power lines going for the full length of the project, and we have been including taking those underground as part of the project.
Is RMP gonna fund us or reimburse us any? No.
So, yeah, and we'll get into this, there's some different options for what they cover compared to what we cover, but because we're taking it underground, we cover the cost from taking it aerial to underground. So yeah, red is if we just say, keep all the improvements and just go as far as we can, this is where we think we can go. Again, we're at 30%, that line could change by the time we get to construction. Hopefully not too much, but this is our best guess. So one of the, about half of the full length of the project we were hoping for. The option to kind of step down from that and extend the length of the project is option 2 we'll also discuss, which takes out 2 of our hefty costs of the project, and that is landscaping our park strips and leaving the power lines aerial. And there are some key points on that we'll talk about, and that's that green section takes you a little bit further, a little bit past Danzy Boulevard. And then option 1 is if we actually alter the width of the road a little bit and look at some other options on our side treatments as far as landscaping and park strips go. So again, we estimate that could get us close to 7300 west. The other option we could is look at reversing where we start from and start from 7300 west, working east. This would kind of leave a gap in the middle of where it's finished. I don't know if there's any interest to discuss starting from 7300 west, but we wanted to propose this as an option. Maybe this is a time to kind of get the council's thought on as far as starting point. We could work from west to east or east to west.
How do we get farther going from west to east on
So
option 3?
you get a little bit further because you are using funds from Hidden Oaks. They're on the hook to landscape their park strips and put in sidewalk. So those costs are covered by the developer. So it actually extends your project because they're covering those costs. Does that make sense?
But we can't use those funds going east to west?
Right, because it's,
'Cause we'll
their
have to stop
frontage is
before we get to
right
that.
all along here, right? And
Okay.
so they're only on the hook to landscape.
So we barely
and-
get to the edge of their property.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, so you can imagine by the time we get to here, we've used all our funds.
Are
and
their
we're not-
funds perpetual? If we choose to go the next year or the next time we can to extend it, are they still there available for us?
Well, that would be a good question, because the way that we would, let me take a step back. Originally, they were going to build their portion of Harriman Highway, and we were going to reimburse them for it. In the end, the costs didn't work out, and as we got the bond, we said, okay, this is a city project, let's do a city-run project. And so right now, the way that we would recoup that money would be in a offset of what they owe us, essentially.
Okay.
And so, that's something we could look into, is if we only built to the edge of Hidden Oaks, could we get the money at a later date? I don't know the answer to that right now. So yeah, any other questions on starting
Starting
point?
at the same point, going,
Yeah.
sorry, I missed the other slide.
Yeah, so if you go from east to west, you end where the red line is there. The yellow and green, right?
Yep. And now we can jump into each of these options so you kind of get a visual of what we're talking about. So option 1, trying to go the full length. So, one of the big changes is to go from an 80-foot right-of-way to a 68-foot right-of-way. So, let's go back to that 80-foot right-of-way and what it looks like. So it's mostly reducing these shoulders, right? So there's 10 feet off of the edge of the travel lane, or 10.5 feet off of the edge of the travel lane. We have buffered bike lanes and right turn lanes.
You still keep the full right of way though. We're just
Yeah, so
building
that-
a narrower road.
Yeah, so on the narrower road, we would actually skinny up the right of way to 68 feet, which would be going down from our major collector to our minor collector road.
What's our current Main Street?
Our current Main Street is this width as far as curb to curb goes, but its actual right of way width is 100 feet. We've got really big.
But
park
this
strips.
would be very similar to the actual asphalt
This
and
would-
look.
Yeah, this would match up exactly with the curb to curb, the lanes would
So,
match up
My
with.
question is really centered around the right of way because so as part of the cost savings that we're not purchasing as much land and they're gonna
Yes.
build up to that? Cause to me, that's dangerous because if we need a wider road
Yeah, I
here,
think it's right.
you're not gonna get one.
Yeah, so you're right. Big significant cost savings is not purchasing as much right of way. So 68 feet, and I should talk about this. It would be 68 feet for these straightaway areas. And then areas where we have an intersection where we need right turn lanes, so at 64th, probably at Twisted Oak and Danzy Boulevard where we have some bigger roads connecting to it, it would widen out back to that 80-foot right of way. So you don't see this in Harriman as much, but in a lot of the UDOT roads, you'll see that there's the lane, there's the bike lane, and then at the intersection, it'll actually taper out and open a right turn pocket. So this change would actually carry the same amount of vehicles. You're not lowering your capacity of.
Like Jared's point, the cost saving comes from just acquiring the dirt.
So
Is that
not
what we're doing?
only, so your
That's one-
asphalt
That's
width.
asphalt.
Power lines.
It's one of the cost savings, but what I wanna
Asphalt,
point out
yeah.
is in the future,
We wanna
when
make that a
Olympia Hills is
4-lane.
built
Oh, yeah, that's
out,
what- yeah,
when
right.
when Rio Tinto and Daybreak do their god awful stuff they're talking about, are we gonna want a wider road? Will
Yes.
UDOT want a wider road? If you've got property lines all the way up there, the chances
Agreed.
of them or anyone else doing it is almost nil.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you brought this as an option, but I'm personally opposed to it because I think long-term vision, right? I think that this takes care of an immediate problem and it just creates more taxpayer-funded money in the future. You gotta come in and you gotta rip out all that stuff on the side to widen it, and so you're spending money and spending money and spending money.
I mean, who knows how it all work out in the end, but I mean, just all these discussions have been in the last 2 years with the Southwest visioning thing, right? And all the east-west roads that should have been, didn't happen because of this very thing.
Yeah.
Right? So, would it be us that's ripping it out and building it? Maybe not, maybe it's the state, maybe it's
Feel it's us
whoever,
as taxpayers.
right? But there's the option for him to do it if we keep the full right of way is gonna be my main
The
thing,
tough
right?
part is we're at the end of the line, right?
Whether we build the full width now or not, I'll argue we need to
Maintain the right of
still
way.
buy the land for the right of way.
Yeah.
Or the easements, yeah.
If I might, Bryce, what are the traffic,
Yeah.
what are our studies showing us out 30, 40 years?
Yeah, so we're working on our transportation master plan update right now.
The real
So
density that they're planning on building.
yeah, so we have used the draft general plan as our land use guide and then made some adjustments, like we updated Olympia, we've updated areas that we just saw were not reflected in reality, right? And 2050, our volumes on Harriman Highway or Harriman Main Street, we're still only at about 50% capacity of this road.
At the
68 feet.
68 feet right away.
Yeah, right. Well, okay. Let me take a step back. Right now, we're not considering this as a lowering of capacity at all.
Right.
As far as the existing striping goes. And so, yeah, that would be 50% of this or 50%
Of the proposed option three.
of option three. And let me go back to that. What I think Jared is alluding to here is that in the worst case scenario, you could try to turn this into 5 lanes. It would be like a Sentinel Ridge Road if you tried to turn it into 5 lanes. On option one, you would have to actually widen the road. You would need to blow out curb and gutter, you'd need to blow out sidewalk to get to 5 lanes. Like I said, we're not showing the need in 2050 even with our brand new updated transportation master plan. And we're not really, frankly, we're not close on our model.
Can you show option 2 left or west to east?
So, one other thing I want people to think about is, as you're getting that ready, is that if you look at where Harriman, Maine goes, it ties into 126th, right? So it's not a true east-west route. You're bringing people down and back to 126 is where the pinch is going to be. Harriman, Maine will carry traffic, but they're still all coming down.
I don't think Olympia people are gonna go down.
Well, I disagree.
it's just- this is just
If they build apartments in the mouth of
So,
Butterfield
you
County.
guys
So
have
they're
been
building that park there too.
You guys met
Yeah,
with Rio
and
Tinto,
everybody
what I'm
going to
worried about
the,
is
to the park.
this 2,000 acres and the like 2,000 or 3,000 acres on the other side of it, that they're proposing
Oh, come around.
Far worse
The
than
density
the
than-
50
than
50 acre
Olympia
park
is.
canyon and
all over the place.
Well,
the
and
mountain bike, yeah.
7,300
So,
is gonna straight through
you
there,
have
they're gonna
all
come down.
of this, I would argue that a lot of that will come this way, especially if they're going south, right?
If they wanna
They
get
will
over
come
to
down here and then
134th
they'll
south,
fork
right?
off, right?
Yeah, fork
I
off
think they're gonna come
at
right here.
56 or at
They're gonna
Rosecrest.
turn onto that little 134th and down they
Right,
go.
they may, so, anyway, that's been my big push
I don't-
forever is east-west, like if the right of way isn't there, then there's no possibility of ever doing
But I think we can push that. I know I completely agree, but if we can push, there's a big push right now with 111, the new adjustment to blow all the way through past Main Street to really make it 134th connection. So I think that's where you're gonna see a lot of the traffic can go. I think 134th is gonna be our bigger east-west.
And I think 126th as well. This is just a really weird,
Yeah.
cause all of a sudden we tied it in right there. It probably should have come through Crane Park, right? There should have been some,
Straight.
But
Or
it-
that 132.
because it did that little.
Well, that
loop
old
there.
126 was rough when it came through there. I mean, because it was the main street before they
So
built
even
126 all the way
that
out.
was rerouted.
I see this being like,
is a strange
if
intersection.
you guys drive Old Bingham in West Jordan, once they finished 78th and punched it all the way through, Old
It
Bingham
went
was
dead,
dead.
yeah.
Like that is way.
I love
over
driving
there.
it though, cause there's
Way
no
over
trail.
there. So I think if we can,
But
Well,
this is
it's
our
a
main
crappy
street.
road that's through an industrial park.
Yeah,
what's that?
It's
it's,
a crappy road through an industrial park at the end too.
Right.
So we're,
Yeah.
so help me understand, so then you think that they're gonna bring UN11 where, Drive?
It's gonna go down,
Well, there's all sorts of things. Right now, it's, one of the models has it coming this way. Another one shows it coming kinda like this. Some come over like, it's all over the place.
So what we show in our master plan and what we've been working is that first option. So it comes down and actually ties through the main street of Olympia and ties into 6400
There's like a
West.
roundabout in there somewhere,
Yeah,
a weird intersection.
yeah, so it tie in, and it also connects to 126 for Harriman Boulevard. So our model shows that 126 is taking a majority of the traffic east-west, and it's built for that, right? This could go out to 7 lanes if it needed to.
I will.
There is a heavy flow from 64 down to 134th, so we're
That's gonna be-
seeing.
yeah.
that's gonna be where people are.
We're seeing
That's what I'm
a
saying.
lot of traffic on 134th, which that's already there, right? But there is a bit of increase, and then 126 as well as where the main corridors east-west in Harriman.
So you're not showing anything dumping on down 73, cause 73 is gonna go through, so you don't think anybody's gonna jump on that and dump out down here?
So that could be an option, right? UDOT's still going through their study, but what we proposed and what we studied, the best option for our network was to actually turn U-111 east-west, so you're not sending as many people down onto Main Street, you're actually sending them
Driving to the city
64.
center, yeah.
And either they're hitting 126 here, or they're getting on 64 and hitting 134th at one, or 126.
I guess my point is that people who live out in that area too, I don't think they're gonna go up to come down.
Right.
No,
I
they're
think
not,
gonna
yeah, they're gonna come down,
and
yeah.
come out.
All of that Rio Tinto and Daybreaker proposed.
Yeah.
Well, High Country and all
Yeah,
that
and
would go right
they'll-
through there, yeah.
Yeah, and I should say, if we're talking about Rio Tinto, 118 is a huge corridor as well. So they're 118, 126, and 134th do show heavy 2050 traffic.
But not Main, that's why I say, I think my point is, I don't think Main Street's gonna be the
At
Harriman
least,
Highway.
at least not once you get past 6,400. Maybe to Rose Canyon.
Or 56, maybe, yeah.
Right, so I'm thinking that where option 2 gets to, that's,
Show us
Almost
option
sufficient.
2.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't get, so
There you go.
we keep the 80-foot right of way, but we take out some key factors that are bringing our costs up so high. So we've designed for water efficient design in the landscapes for the whole project. In other projects, we've actually had the property owner or the developer be on the hook for their own park strips. So that's the idea here, is we would install the full 80, but our park strips would not be landscaped except in front of Hidden Oaks where the developer's paying for it. And the areas that are undeveloped, like this south side, would wait for development, and then the areas that are right up against property owners, that it would be their choice to landscape that park strip or not.
so there are other cost-effective, or cost savings from doing other, local zero-escaped water conservation use other than stamped concrete?
No, so water efficient design is generally more
Expensive,
expensive than
Crazy expensive.
than the
Well, it's more
long
expensive
grass that we see.
up front.
Upfront, yeah,
long-term.
as part of the project.
Long-term plans.
But we did propose maybe a second option, which eliminates the park strips, cause here's the thought, if we leave them and we don't landscape them, they have the potential to turn into just weeds, right, all the way down Main Street.
A lot of them.
So there is a consideration that maybe we bring the sidewalk right up against the curb, extend it out to 6 feet, and then we actually have easements on the back of the sidewalk for our streetlights or utilities. Again, that brings the right of way a little bit more narrow, but you're not impacting the actual roadway width. You're just,
Question, I've seen it downtown, see where the light post is on the option 2, right? What if that was a dedicated bike lane
yes,
inside
that,
the curb?
yeah, that, a protected bike
Yeah,
lane is
protected
what you're
bike lane.
talking about. That would add a little more cost to the project, right? Cause you're adding a curb and then more asphalt essentially. But that's a side treatment. We could look at, the issue you would have is, okay, if you put in a bike lane, usually it's a 4-foot minimum for a bike lane. Generally, we like to see a 5-foot if we can. Then you're pushing the sidewalk outside of that. You're starting to actually increase your overall cross section at that point.
So even like, say those streetlights moved into the sidewalk and they've got that curb, is that not a 5-foot where the lamp line is, and we're taking out of the park strip? And we're just concrete or asphalting that,
So
is what I'm thinking.
you would put the lamp in the actual sidewalk?
Or on the opposite side, on the back of sidewalk?
So,
Where
yeah,
utilities would
we
be.
would, yeah, but, so, yeah, that's a good point. We would have to require an easement, cause we don't have a PUV the whole length of
Okay.
the road. And so you
But that
would
would
have
increase
pockets
costs,
where
you
you
think?
could do
Yeah,
that,
okay.
and then pockets where you couldn't, and then if you wanted it consistent, you'd have to require essentially another easement outside of this.
Which is less expensive between the two, and 2 are about the same.
They're about the same, but this one, it would be slightly less expensive, and the reason for that is, let's see if I
Total
can go
right of way.
back. Yes, where is it?
You're
Oh,
8 feet
72
shorter,
feet,
yeah.
right here, yeah, so you're using 72 feet of right of way as opposed to 80, so your right of way acquisition is a little bit less.
What do we
So-
currently own through there?
In most sections, we have about the 68 feet. And that's, there could be an argument made, we're still going through kind of the survey and the existing right-of-way that almost that whole corridor could be considered, public right-of-way.
Is there any houses as we expand that you're gonna take the house?
No, there are no houses with our 80-foot right-of-way that we would,
Encroach on.
condemn the whole house
Gonna
essentially.
take some trees though.
There are trees, there are fences that
Not
are,
enough, yeah.
agricultural fences and fences that would be impacted by this project.
Do we,
Those are not historical trees.
do we rebuild those fences at our cost?
Yeah, so everything that we impact, we replace in kind, which
Okay.
just means that
If
whatever
we take a
touch,
tree out,
we
we
replace
put a
it
tree in.
back to the way it was. Trees are a little bit hard, cause if it's a 40-year-old tree,
No,
that's
yeah,
gonna
but
be
yeah.
hard, but
You
But
put it
same
in-
species,
yeah,
right?
okay.
You get a bush.
Go from 40 feet to 6 feet.
Well, we give them the firewood, right?
yeah. So, and then option 3, like I talked about, full improvements and including, so the other two, we were keeping the power
Sidelines.
aerial. This includes, taking it underground, landscaping the park strips, and then this is our distance, I guess. And then-
Advantages, disadvantage of power lines.
Where are all the power poles in your thing?
So the power poles in this case would land right in the park strip. So we can ask Rocky Mountain to move them into the park strip, no cost to the city if it's a move from right of way to right of way and we're not undergrounding it. So we would relocate, I should say, but they would stay aerial. So the poles would still be there. And I should also say, for this section of Main Street that we do have widened, they are aerial. We did
Yeah, they're
not
still-
underground
yeah.
that section.
What's the advantage of taking them underground?
So, let me take a step back. We require all new power lines to go underground. Not only is it an aesthetic issue, but it reserves a lot more space, and so the park strip, right, everything's opened up when you have these lines. It also is better for the utility, right? More reliable if it's underground, less
Flexibility.
chance of it getting, pole getting hit.
You don't have wind issues.
You don't, yeah.
Yes.
And aesthetics.
What's the least expensive to do later? Is it the power? Is it?
No, power would be expensive unless you're going through some sort of PUE, right?
I make
It's
sense.
a
What I'm
lot
saying
less
is,
yeah,
expensive
no,
once it's
Huge
built.
expensive to do.
Yeah. Nothing's cheap to do after the fact.
That's right. You lose, I think we found on Main Street, this end of Main Street where we're doing the landscaping, it was $1 million, right?
Yeah.
900 some odd
Yeah,
thousand dollars to come
there's a
back
trail
and
in there,
redo
but-
that landscape. I mean, you choose not to do some of that.
You just leave it like we did,
Natural grass, yeah.
Rose Crest, and just leave it dirt, the
Yeah,
weeds grow.
Which is option 2, well, it's option 2, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, option 2, there's kind of 2A, which would be eliminate the park strips and then do a 6-foot sidewalk essentially. And then have an easement on back of that for streetlights and utilities such as water meters and hydrants.
Aesthetically, that's just a terrible road.
I don't
no
love
trees,
it,
no
yeah.
nothing, I mean,
Well, does that include tree wells? We could include tree wells.
So the first option does, right? The second option does not include tree wells, cause it's sidewalk.
Option 3, that one we did put tree wells.
Trees and the park strip would be all landscape with water efficient design.
Option 1 had tree wells.
Option 1 is tree wells with stamped concrete
Yeah.
as the park strip.
If you were to do option 2, but instead of no landscaping, you just had trees and not grass and stuff, just some,
So.
But you get a
soil
widen the
trees.
sidewalk, or you put them where the lamps go.
Well, the power poles have to go
Yeah,
there, so
so-
the trees
Yeah,
could
true.
go where the power poles go, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, so that's typically how it is we have trees in the park strip and streetlights. So
Yeah, like space, there was so often where, the only reason I asked that is that, I mean, this is such a main arterial road, to not
It's the
have
visual
any
impairment, yeah.
trees or anything, it's just so different than this, I mean,
Well,
Yeah,
you have these
so-
old properties
So I'll say this,
that have
you would
trees.
essentially just shorten this to put in trees, right? Like I said,
got
it's
it.
It's this times
So,
this
What
length.
if we started on the
Started on
left
the
though and
west
came
side.
back, could you get all the
We'd
way
get
to
farther.
Rose Canyon, you know?
Yeah, so, yeah, we're looking at green option.
You could, yeah. And adding trees, what do you think? You would-
That one has no landscaping except along Hidden Oaks.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
so
There is no
you,
landscaping.
If we have
that's
some
just that
trees in
little
there, it's
thing,
gonna
right?
shorten
you
it
pull
up.
it back a little bit, right?
So one other thing to think about, when you are
Find
keeping,
spots
having worked in older cities that have aerial, planting trees under power lines is just a future problem.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
So you really have to think about even your own landscape design, if you have aerial lines, do you really put trees there?
They're
I
just
wanna
on
make
one
sure-
side though, right?
Option two does not include burying the power lines.
Option two is
All
power
those-
lines.
all those
The only
V
option
cuts,
that
that's
is
the
power
mess.
line, underground is 3.
The other thing
But
with,
it's only one-sided.
the other thing with aerial in the park strip is your streetlights have to be shorter as well. So
Just on
that's
that one
the
side
lighting
coming
On
across.
the one side,
And
It's
do
on
we,
the
right now,
south side of
that
the
they
street?
bounce
North
back
side.
and forth.
yeah, north
It
side.
bounces
Yeah,
back
so
and
does it
forth.
go-
Yeah, so along here, it's all on the south side, and
And it
then right as
goes
you get to
across.
Hidden Oaks, it crosses and comes on the north
Yeah,
side.
I'll
that's
tell you
right.
another thing to consider too when we're talking about coming from the east to the west or west to the east is we do have an elementary school across the street
I
right
was
there
gonna
that
say
we're trying
that.
to
Yeah,
shoot
so-
safe walking
How
routes.
does that
And if
affect-
we do
And-
from 7300 on, we put in some sidewalk and we take care of that problem. If we do the other way, we don't address.
This
the
I,
fall,
problem.
yeah.
I actually, we did think of that, right? So if you started from the east, this was one of our big concerns and a big part of the project was to provide sidewalks from both sides to the school, right? And so these cost estimates include, if you started from the east, a trail that would kind of stand alone. It wouldn't be protected. It would be off the side of the road to connect all the way to 73. Cause it's same with the green, you'd connect a trail from there to there. It would be a standalone trail, kind of like we have surrounding Harriman and Harriman Elementary. We have just trails that are to the side of the road. There's no curb, there's no,
See, I'd prefer to start
protection.
from the west and coming east to solve that
If we
issue
can get
alone.
further, we can get some landscaping, we can get it all the way past the
So-
school, safe rock route.
So this,
Do all that
we do have, you wouldn't, if you did the full thing, you don't quite, we have
No,
to probably
yeah.
get to here to
Yeah.
get the full safe walk route.
Right. I think we do option 2, but, I don't know. We gotta add some greenery or trees or something,
Leaving
but
those
I
aerial
don't know.
power lines just is
I know.
so gross.
But they're gonna update them, they're gonna
Well, if
have
you
brand
go
new
this
poles.
way, you go underground to
Steel
here,
poles
and now
instead
you're
of
above
windows.
ground
I got
to, what, right there? You still have a hodgepodge.
Yeah, it's not gonna all be underground.
Is there any concern that we're kind of holding ourselves to a different standard than private development?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure, that's, I mean, we have the
Hey,
ambiguity,
but is
right?
this-
Without
is
NDAs,
this-
we have they all
matches-
different standards anyway.
But it matches the current Main Street, right? The option 2 matches current Main Street, right? We're not
No, I mean,
No
72.
landscaping on option 2.
That's
The
true.
landscaping concerns, me. I think the underground, those are existing lines, it's not new development. Anytime we do new development, the Hidden Oak subdivision, they have to put them underground. We probably, I don't believe, could make,
Take them underground.
those people put them underground because that would be a
Just put them
taking.
in an NDA or
right?
something, but, yeah.
Unless it was in there negotiated, we don't have that authority to say, there's something exists, we want you to fix it.
And I would say, as far as changing the width of the road, we would require it coming to council if anyone ever did propose that and make sure it still meets our master plan needs. So
Yeah.
we're going through the process a developer would to go away from a certain width or a certain requirement, right?
What's your recommendations?
Yeah, so our recommendation is option 1, because you are able to put in park strips that are stamped concrete, right? And
It's
you're
like
able
it's out
to
here.
maintain the exact same volume of road, and you're taking up less space and impacting residents less. There is obviously the concern that we've heard that you have less right of way, so if our
Yeah,
master plan's wrong in 2050, right?
and
It's not
You
our
have-
plan,
you-
it's not
you
our
do
plan I'm
need
worried
to-
about.
What is the capacity for that 68 foot? How many cars per day versus a So at the, as
It
you
doesn't
draw it
change though,
versus the
because you're
five.
still
Lanes, right?
Well, if you went to the
If
five.
Oh, the
Right.
five
The
lane,
five
I see,
lanes.
okay, yeah.
Oh, from a 3-lane to a 5-lane is what you're asking. So I think 3-lane can handle, I wanna say 16,000 cars a day, and a 5-lane can handle like 30,000
At D,
a
right?
day.
So it doubles volume.
They're gonna come down there for an 8-lane,
They will never do that for you.
I mean, I love option 3, right, but,
We're not getting very far with it.
yeah. And then when's,
The only thing I don't like about option one is it restricts the future utility of the road should development exceed.
but here's the
what's
thing,
planned.
do we want that road to be wider? In 10 years, 15 years, do we want more people down Main Street? Especially with this crossing here in the school zone, and do we want this 45 miles an hour through here?
It depends too, they might not go down Main Street because
That's
they
what I
might.
said.
No, that's
collect
what,
and
if we
dump
leave
down-
it small,
But
it
I mean,
won't
they
come.
might come and dump down Rose Canyon, if that's coming through 6400, all this could dump down whatever the
Right.
new U
I
11
think,
is
I
and
think
not
before you
continue
get
on.
to like Pioneer Street, by that time, you've probably made, you're gonna either go north or south from
Yeah.
there to get
Yeah.
to 126 or 134th. It's rare that you would come all the way down Main Street to this intersection at 126, which is gonna be,
But, and I think that comes to
Cycle, right?
planning and to road design, right? If we make it small, they're not gonna use it,
Yeah, so
as long as it holds the volume.
there's
But
there's
I
differing opinions
Yeah.
on that, right?
Cause I don't drive through Daybreak because the road, the roads are small. I will
114
jump down to 106 instead of drive through the city, even though it's a shorter distance, quicker time, I go the bigger roads.
118 or 1.
Yeah, 106, yeah.
And there is some, you said there's argument about, it. You'll get some traffic engineers and they'll make that argument all day
The
long.
opposite way,
That's-
yeah.
They say, oh, no, they'll say that's exactly what they,
Okay.
and then there are those who will argue,
Yeah.
There is this theory that most traffic engineers, it's called induced demand. So if you build it wider than you need it, it'll get filled,
It would,
right?
yeah, it's just like your garage, can't ever have enough space, right?
Yeah. So because now there's
Great
space,
analogy.
people that weren't originally gonna go on that road
They
now
choose that
will
as an
because
option.
we've widened it and it's
I don't know if we have
available
any
to
other
So,
choice.
so help me understand option 2, is option 2 coming from the west to the east or from the east to the
Uh,
west?
No, it's just a
so
type of
So you
road.
can do either way. So this is all 3 options starting from 7300 west. If we go back, oh, this isn't working.
I like option 2, I like the idea that we're taking care of a huge problem with the safety of our children in that area by allowing a proper walking path, because the road.
Well, you get that all
Option
3.
one does, you
Yeah.
get, right.
I know you get a trouble, I'm just telling you, it's not the same, if you drive that road every day, it's
Yeah.
dangerous.
No, option
No,
one
option
is
one
not
you
a
get
trail.
sidewalk.
Option one, you
Option
get
one is
sidewalk.
full sidewalk.
Option one, you get sidewalk.
Only for there.
No,
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 option
totally.
one is from
It starts at the
Yeah.
left and goes all the way to the end of the
Option
hill.
one
narrow
will
the
do the
road.
entire.
Option
lane.
one is the whole thing.
option one, we get the whole project, just narrow
Oh,
road.
got it.
Just a narrower road.
That's why I like
Narrow
that too,
right of
because
way.
the same
And we get
It's not-
trees.
Let's be clear, it's not a narrower road necessarily, it's a narrower right of way.
Right of way.
You're still gonna have the same volume of traffic, same bike lanes, right?
The
So
little
the
smaller,
bike
you're
lanes
68
go
feet,
from a
right?
buffered bike lane, which we have over here on Main Street, to just a standard bike lane,
Standard
which
bike,
we
yeah.
actually have on this section of Main Street. As a
I
comparison.
can promise you there's a ton of bicycle activity on that road.
Yeah.
I cuss them every day, not because I cuss them, but it's like, ugh.
Well,
it's
right now, they're
dangerous.
riding on it and
It's
there's
dangerous.
no,
No shoulder, no
There's
anything,
nothing,
yeah,
yeah.
There's construction.
yeah.
Yeah, it's super dangerous.
6400 is crazy right now.
You got that buffer, you still got the 4-foot buffer.
well,
On the-
Yeah.
you've got,
No,
they've got
oh,
an
It's
actual
working.
lane.
So we can,
Yeah, the 4-foot buffer and then the lane.
No, no, that's option
That's
3.
a different option.
so
There's
yeah,
just-
here, I'll walk through 'em
There you go.
again. So
There's
option
option
1 is
Just a
68
4.5
foot until you get to intersections. and
Option
then-
one is what you have right outside this window, other than the landscape median.
Well, this is actually 5 lanes, so if you could just go a little bit further
Yeah.
down there, yeah. So from 56 or Rosecrest
Around the only
west
thing-
is
Option one, which is great.
what curb to curb looks like is right here.
Right.
You don't have the ability to-
So, yeah, I'll just walk through 'em real quick. 68 foot on the straightaways, widens out to 80 foot, has park strips that are stamped concrete and tree wells. But at intersections, that park strip goes away to open up a right turn lane and keep the bike lane.
What is the power cost to go underground?
For the whole project,
Yeah.
almost 2 million.
That's what we're.
What's the length of that project? How many miles?
Ooh, I don't know off the top of my head, that's a
Will
good
it-
question.
Will it cost more to do that later? That's
Yes.
what I'm saying, will it
Oh,
cost more to come
everything,
back?
yeah,
And
cause you have
plus
to
it
tear up
rips up your
something
road
and then
and-
redo
And then
it.
there,
Why is something I just wondered?
or somebody's gonna have to buy that right away behind the curb to put those in, or we're
You don't
tearing out
put it
sidewalk.
underground now, it will never be.
Yeah.
Correct, yep.
Is the answer.
But I don't know if I'm,
So-
I mean, I don't know if I'm.
I mean, so
this
some
bad
other
thing.
options, which is, this is not wonderful, but you can look at the CIP and shift some other projects out, right? We have projects that need to be done.
Well, sure, we'll just put 6,400 west off for another 10 years.
But again, so that's the balance when you're saying we've gotta do all this, there's only so much. And we'll do whatever you tell us to do. But if you wanted to do option 3, the entire length, do the full thing and spend the 17 million, we could come back and say, here are the projects that shift.
What's the priority matrix there? Like what,
It's up to you. We'll tell you, but if you spend 7 million, you gotta take 7
Yeah,
million.
and it's so hard
And that's a
to
lot of projects.
Yeah, and so many of those projects have been on the back burner forever too,
Yep.
it's hard to say no to those.
Which is the whole reason we decided to allocate the full bonding money to this and leave.
thinking it would
the rest of
cover
money for all
the
the other
majority of
things,
it?
yeah.
And
It's just a 70% increase from the time we started till now, right? I mean, that's just insane.
And there's the chance that it can continue to increase
It
until
will.
we bid, so.
It will, yeah.
Yeah, I would
Hopefully we can do
would
option one
say
Have we
these are
got-
all our estimates right now, whatever
Yeah, that would
option
suck if
we,
we get to option 1 and then we're still short.
yeah, whatever option we choose, we will work to get it as far as we can, I should disclose that, because next year, by the time we're paving in spring,
Is that our target date is
18
pavement in
more
spring?
feet.
so
Yeah,
do
yeah.
utility work
Section by
in the
then,
winter
and
and pave in
contractors
spring and have
can
everything
scramble
done by
for work.
July is our goal.
And
And that
option
one-
1, the
in 2009.
Downsy development part pays part of it too, correct?
Yes, so
Couldn't find
they'd be on the
anybody
hook
to
for
work,
all
they were
the
all shut
trees, the
down.
lands, well, in this case, stamped concrete, along their frontage. And the sidewalk, if I didn't already say that.
But the owners were doing the work instead of their qualified subcontractors.
This is less impactful too to some of the existing residents, I guess. They don't have
Yeah,
this
right,
much
so
more.
along here and then down here where you have some houses fronting Herman Highway, those
Are
would
we-
be impacted less.
Can we acquire all the right of ways currently, or we've we even started that
That's part of the
conversation?
17 million that
Right.
we're missing is we don't have enough money to cover the right of way. So this is how you get down, right? Right of way, landscaping and power underground are big items that
We can
you
take
gotta
off.
kinda cut some if you wanna get down.
At option 1, do we still have to go out and acquire, or do we currently own that?
Yeah, it's much less that we
Right.
need to acquire
Show me
now.
option 2 again.
Yeah, option 2.
Is 1 better or 2 better?
Horrible.
3 or 4? Like the optometrist.
Yeah, and like Nathan
Right.
said, this isn't we didn't consider these options the only options, but we wanted to kind of give the most realistic options we could, so.
3's enough right now, really.
Yeah, right.
I would.
You're gonna have to talk with them.
I just.
Where's the school walk? Tell me.
Option 2 sucks.
So,
There's no
yeah, so
trees,
you actually
don't go
have-
to the power lines, and you don't get
Could you
the full
imagine
way.
that's your main street? That's what's
Yeah,
tough,
you don't-
yeah.
That's
you
where
don't
they're
get-
walking, right?
You don't
Yeah, so
accomplish anything
Danzy
with that
Boulevard
other
is
than
the
just
main
preserving
only
So
way
space.
out.
you have some coming
But-
from here,
no,
up here.
No, but the
some
thing about
coming
this
from
is,
down here,
this is,
up here.
this is the reason this is a really bad option, you get no landscaping, no buried power lines, and you don't get all the way.
Yeah.
Like you don't accomplish anything.
This is the compromise, right?
This
The
is
one
like
that,
yeah,
that
The most in
no
the
one
middle, the
really-
most squishy, you like,
Yeah.
we did something, we did a lot more of something, but we didn't do anything right, you know?
Well, I personally like the
Landscaping
stamped
is the
concrete
only thing
idea
we're gonna have to
versus
tear up.
the
More than grass, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
no
yeah,
grass,
agreed,
There's
yeah.
no weeds, it's done.
Agreed.
And then with the tree wells, I like that.
Yeah.
As long as
And that's
you
what
got
this is, stamped concrete and tree wells.
water.
It's just less right away.
Yeah.
That's the
Stop.
question. Are your studies right? Or nobody ever gonna use that road? The nice thing is that it does add an extra lane to it that it doesn't have now, plus it adds bike lanes that it doesn't have now, so.
Right. And
So-
sidewalks that it doesn't have now.
So you-
Whatever you do
One
is
thing-
better than what it is now.
So one thing to think about, as you build wider, you also have to maintain that.
Right.
And if in 30 years, your model shows you don't need it, you're maintaining that asphalt for an extra 30 years when you don't need it.
And then I guess if.
You mean like the
if there's
100-foot
whole-
right of way on
Juniper.
Juniper
And
Crest?
then if they punch through Tooele,
Current
you
drive
don't
guys just
even have to
think
do
all
a
the money we
process
spend.
anyway, it'll just be different taxpayer people that
Such a
take
bad-
credits, you know.
Well, if they come through to Will,
I don't like it,
buy
I
our
think
city
option
hall
one
and
is the way to
figure
go.
us out.
That's where I'm at.
So I can go straight.
Unfortunately, like I said, I don't like it, but I think we're,
Go back to the end. Did we settle on a starting point? If we wanna start.
well, if we do
Option
I
one,
think
one,
option
the
one.
Yeah,
for-
option one,
Option
hopefully.
one, but I'd say you have to start at the left in case you run short and can't get all the way.
Then we got just a small section,
A small section we can do.
and that could be a,
Capital improvement
Yeah.
later.
Or you could look at current project on the CIP
Yeah,
to make
to-
that.
a smaller
Exactly.
one.
Yeah, something to,
one in Steve's district, we'll take that.
right. Whatever, mine's the one growing all crazy. I guess, sure,
Don't take 7,300 off.
no,
It's
yeah,
still
no,
5 years out, don't take that one off.
He's out there.
yeah.
What do you guys
Just looking
think?
to see what's-
Jared, where are you at? Which option you on?
5 or 7.
Which? 2? 3?
We want 3, yeah.
Whatever option, whatever width you build the road, I wanna keep the whole right of way. I mean, no matter what, you're gonna come up short. No matter what. There will be a gap and we'll be playing the game if you start from the west to the east. The costs are gonna be higher than even what we think that is. There's gonna be a gap, there's gonna be a decision to make.
I bet we come in
Start
15
going through
million.
the list. I mean, or do you start from the east and you do as much as you can with 10 million? And I mean, it's kind of a no-win scenario, right? You're not gonna get any.
You're saying option 2, starting from 7,300. You want the full 80 foot?
I want the full right of way. I mean,
Do you want the power underground?
well, you can't if you're gonna do the whole thing, right?
Well, option 3 shows the power going underground, full improvements, landscaping, 80-foot right away.
But that's the $17 million one, right?
Well, this is from there to there.
Oh,
It just gets you
just
to
that
where
far.
the
Really
new
get you
developments.
Ten
It gets you
million,
where
but
the new
you get
developments
everything,
start.
but you just don't get it as far.
The only one that
Yeah.
gets us the whole thing is option 1.
You could also not do the power underground and take this a little further, option 3.
Yeah.
That would be an option.
Yeah, that would give you a little bit.
But then you're installing trees under power lines.
Again, you can do it, I just think we just should be really smart
On
about.
the species. and-
Require-
Then you end up with trees that have holes cut out of the middle of them
Well,
going.
that's why I
Fair
said,
enough.
sometimes you should look at it and decide, do you really want trees on that side? If it's running, if
Alternating, yeah.
you want them on one side.
But then we have I mean, okay, look at it that way. You leave the power lines up and you only landscape on the side, you only put trees on the side opposite of the power lines, you probably get even farther,
A little bit, yeah.
right?
And then you stamp concrete on the other
You
side.
have, you have
under
half
the-
the landscaping.
You still leave the wells for the
So-
power poles or whatever, and then go from there.
So really the big issue that we need direction on is if you wanna do one, that's different, cause we're shrinking the right of way. If we do 2A, you're shrinking the right of way, that changes the design. If you're still thinking it's the full thing, we can go down that path, just knowing you're not gonna get here. Or back to here, right? It's only gonna do a part of it. That's the question we really need. Are we willing to do a 68-foot right of way, 72-foot right of way, or an 80-foot right of way?
And which direction you start from.
The 68-foot, you're impacting your existing residents less. All the models show we won't need more than that over the next 30 years, right, into 2050, so it's not quite 30 years, but close. You don't get the underground, but you impact your people less. You go to the 80, you have future ability.
That you may not need.
Yeah.
So you're maintaining it for years you don't need. I mean, if you go up on Juniper Crest, it's how wide, and it doesn't need to be that wide.
It'll never need.
It was a great race strip a long time ago.
So you have to maintain all that asphalt when you don't need it. So there are just some of those pushes and pulls. Having been into, I do actually think that there is some validity in 23 years to the induced use of a road. The wider you make it, the more you'll get traffic on it. Having watched quiet neighborhoods, you expand the road and all of a sudden you get all this traffic, like
I'm
where's it
not
all
saying
coming from?
expand the road, I'm saying
Preserve the
build your
right-of-way.
narrower road, but still have the right of way. So if you don't buy the right of way now, if you need it later, right? So I've seen the models from what Reeves and Toll and Daybreak wanna do out there. It's crazy. None of those people are gonna drive north in order to go south, right? If they're going south, they're coming this way.
Yeah, but if the
And
road's only
you
2
need
lanes.
if you need it, they're not gonna go back in and spend 10 times as much to take out houses in everybody's backyards and everything else. You just won't do it. So that's, to me, that's, are you worried about that or not? I am, cause that's the bet I'll be on every east-west road. That we know of.
120
there-
years will end up
But the tough thing is
being
to
From there,
fix the
I
problem.
I honestly don't care about power lines overhead or underground out there. I really don't.
But if we
I
fix
mean,
the problem here on the far west side, nothing east has that solution, they're gonna have to acquire that all the way through. I don't think we should be the piggy bank or hold that land.
Well, if you don't hold it, it
We
will,
have
I'm
68
saying,
foot here.
that's the thing, it will not happen.
So, yeah, so
90th is supposed to be
we're
east-west
wider out
freeway.
here, well, let me
The
just show on
reason
the
they
map.
didn't do it is they'd have to take out all those houses that they let build into the right of way.
So we have actually 5 lanes here,
How wide is that
3
right of way?
lanes here. That width is probably close to 100-foot right of way.
Right across here, yeah.
Because we have a median and we have wider park strips here, so we have 10-foot park strips out here. Then you get to here, we still have that 100-foot right of way, but it's built to 3 lanes, and those curb lines are like option 1, so the width of option 1. But to the point of Karen, you have the extra right of way there. It's just built narrower.
Where it's improved right along here, how wide is that?
So that was built with 80 feet in mind, but it's only one side, so we're not locked into 80 feet. On one side, it was thought that it would be an option 3 all the way through.
So what I'm
right?
saying is later on, if it's needed to be a wider road, Harriman's not gonna be the one that's paying for the road and building it. It will
Correct.
be UDOT that does it, but only if the right of way is there. They're not gonna go knock down houses and stuff for east-west road.
I don't
Do we-
think
do-
they'll
do
knock
we
down
just
houses.
Pushing
we
it
just control-
126,
So
right?
we just control development on there and not let somebody in that easement, like they have a setback along that road?
Yeah, so any new builds, we have setbacks, and actually no homes can even front Harriman Highway for a new build. There's existing homes there.
But we're not
Right
even
where they're
close,
at.
even
You're
if we
taking
went,
backyards if somebody redeveloped
Yeah.
out there, yeah.
Yeah. but even if we had
reality
to get that land later, there's no structure currently.
Yeah, so if
This would
we
be
went
the street
80
you'd do
foot,
it on.
we're not close to taking any structures right now.
Where's the
Because of how these
134th?
houses
Cause
are, you
134th
would
is
go
gonna
this way.
loop in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It's gonna
so
also,
this is Danzy Boulevard, it's gonna
There's nobody
continue
fronting. See,
down.
that's where people
and
are gonna
hook
go.
I
over.
agree.
that's where people are gonna go.
That's
Well,
Jared,
it's all in the right
Jared,
of
this is
way,
where
so-
people are gonna go. 134th is connecting in here right now. If they're gonna go south, they're gonna go south there. They're gonna turn on and go down 134th.
34th.
And we do show a big,
They will
that's
there,
soon,
or else they
right?
will
That's-
down Rose Canyon Road. What's
That's 4
the
years.
design for Rose Canyon Road?
Years.
Or less, cause we
so
just
that
approved it too,
is
'cause it's coming
a
in
3-lane
development.
road as well.
It's coming in with
An 80
development
foot.
right now.
As
Yeah.
well.
Is that 68 or 80?
So yeah, actually, here it's 80 feet, here it's the 68 feet that we're looking at.
That's my point, I think, to me, that's why 68, I'm good with 68 foot here, cause I think the major ones are gonna be 134th, 126th coming down. I think we're gonna,
And plus, I would
I
hate,
really don't-
we've got safe walk routes, we got crosswalks through that road, we've got so many other
Yeah.
traffic concerns.
So yeah, that's part of the benefit of option 1, right? We're accommodating sidewalks for both sides of the road for
Yeah.
the length
You
of
have
the
more
project,
landscaping.
right?
Well, I think option 1, but we plan on a $15 million project coming in, and we have to probably bump up capital improvement.
The only thing about option one
Totally agree.
is,
If they-
right now, it currently includes, trees in the park strips on both sides.
Yeah.
I
A
would
little
say
cost
that
savings.
I'd say that we consider whether or not that's the right decision and possibly only put trees on one side of the street,
Value engineer it.
just because.
Power lines.
Yeah, cause the power,
Yeah.
just avoid the power lines, you still get some trees out there, that gives it at least a little color and character. And then, you are more likely to get the full length, even if,
We may fall short, but we'll,
but you get into
Budget for
Danzy,
it, yeah.
Danzy will do some of their right?
Right.
With one,
With the money
Danzy
from
does
Dan.
subdue some of their
Yeah,
landscaping, so we're getting into, tapping into their money. I'm on one, I'm with one.
I think so too. And I
Like I said, I don't think it's the best answer, but I think it's the right answer, I should say, but I think it's the best answer, right, given the circumstances.
For the major recession.
Are we compromising too much, Mike, you think?
It's a tough decision,
Yeah.
as we all know. I
Yeah.
mean, you've gone back and forth on this. Preserving options for the future is always
Put it out to bid.
a good way of doing
the
incrementally, right?
one
You're doing
thing
the best
is,
you can
is
with your limitations.
because of the way that the existing structures are,
$6 million.
you could acquire the future right of way without having to impact structures.
You're not condemning
If it's
anything.
developed and new structures will come there, the new structures will be offset because that'll be backyards, not front yards. Again, I think you would be able to acquire right of way without impacting structures. I
With
think,
proper setbacks.
I
and
think
guidelines, yeah.
there's, I think if this is planned right and we're attentive, I think you can still preserve the ability to acquire a future right of way if it's needed, without having to tear down structures.
yeah, there is consideration, so, corridor preservation funds, right? We could build the 68 and come back and work
Start acquiring
towards
the rest of
going
the 80.
further right of way at a later date.
With other funds.
Well, and we're talking about the 80 feet at all the intersections anyway, so that's
Anyway,
usually
so
real
yeah.
expensive, cause you,
So that's gonna be.
Yeah.
The turn lanes,
Yeah,
right?
and we're already
So
getting
we
that.
just use corridor preservation to acquire this,
There you go.
the spaces in between over time?
Yep.
I think that addresses the immediate need, but I also think it takes into consideration what Jared's concerns are.
Yeah.
And I think that's the right plan to go forward
And a
with.
lot more of that money's coming our way based on our involvement in committees and stuff.
And even if they're not coming east on that road, we might wanna go west over to the other neighboring city, Tooele, or out to Bacchus that way, and maybe a good vein out of the city.
And we gotta also remember that the extension out here too is, we potentially could get some county help because it's going to their trailhead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Saying
that's
west of
what,
here.
did that study take into account there's gonna be a major trailhead there that
Yes.
do major events?
Yep.
Cause that concerns me, obviously, traffic.
Can we say how well the HPD did with traffic control leaving the rodeo? Holy smokes.
Dude, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Squirrel like flew out of there.
No, I'm sorry, I just like,
No,
events
yeah,
and
no.
traffic control for sure, I mean, it was amazing.
so option one, just so we can,
Option
I think
one
so.
is what
I'm
I'm
in favor of
hearing.
option one.
but we'll look, we can do some
Yeah, look at
legwork to see how we can
acquiring
acquire.
the
right of way
wider
in the future.
right of way as we go along.
I think we do need to look at that CIP project list and when the RFPs come back.
It'd be the thing, I say do option one, but if the costs start to creep, we might be able to save some money by trees on only half the street.
We'll, you'll
I can
undoubtedly
be a
be
little-
back
I
to
would
this
try to
as
look
we
at some
get
of those
to
savings before we cut into
80,
the
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously,
I
before we
agree,
cut into
exactly,
the-
I would try to get, let's value engineer this project as much as we can before
Agreed.
we're cutting
Yeah,
something
and
else.
and to that point, now that we know option one, we can look at more options within option one to make it work.
No way.
Yeah.
You guys might get rid of me sooner than later.
What's the matter?
I keep telling
We
Lauren
signed the
that if
contract
you guys
for the
want me outta
heritage
here,
rebuild the
those
other
roads
day,
have to get done. If they don't get done, I'm signing back up.
She's like, I don't have to run again.
Don't take that
You just made my decision.
Okay, well, I've probably taken up enough
No,
of
Brett,
your
thank you.
time.
This
No,
was
this is
hard.
good,
Thank
I
you
was
for
in
work
good
on this.
presentation too.
But you didn't get a standing ovation, I will say that.
You can clap yourself, you're
I think
standing.
we were-
It's over, we're done.
But all joking aside, Bryce, to put that together and all
Yeah,
those
that's a tough,
clarifying that was made it.
Yeah.
Hard decision, but you made it.
you did give us some good options to consider.
Thanks.
And Jackie scrapped all of those notes.
That really sucks, man.
They should be fixing it.
Well, we're just gonna be reporting back to you on the direction you've given us
Okay,
previously, right?
2.6, yes.
Yeah, so this is really, are we ready to move, bring it to a regular meeting?
For public hearing in July.
I'd say the sooner, the more likely are to be closer to the cost.
And so the only things we were, it's that area, if you, in the staff report, I don't know if there was a map, but that area down in the south that we talked about today that you approved, we would recommend instead of it all showing commercial, to match what you did tonight.
Correct.
The M1
Um,
zones, yeah.
I have some question about the
you,
Laguna
I was gonna say, I
piece,
think we have,
because I think in the proposal, I don't know, did she use that LMPC? I don't love that as a general plan designation, because I think that's
It's
a
just
general.
master plan
Leave the general plan as it is.
Plan community designation.
I mean, there's some serious hurdles to get over there.
I don't love that concept as a general plan. A general plan should say, here's what we think. If they wanna
I
do an
agree.
NDA, they do an NDA.
I agree 100%.
Yep.
I think it's our responsibility to establish what our vision for that is, and then, you know, if
We've
there's a
got-
master plan over top of that, that's fine, but we
you
should at
can't have the
least,
dog wagging the.
right, we need to be dictating what our vision for the use of the land is.
Garden plots will match the general plan, they've
Yep.
changed their approach, so that's not a problem. Town center, this is, right now it says all, I think it just says mixed use town center,
Yeah,
which is probably fine, but it's really an MDA. I wonder if the idea was to match the map that they gave us.
And then the large
Commercial.
piece on
Is
134th would be straight commercial.
right. Excited to see
Do you have Laguna Malibu on there?
I don't.
Why not?
Restaurants.
I'm not sure that was addressed in the last
Yeah.
meeting.
No, it wasn't.
So, can you pull up what it does show right now? I'm sorry,
Is it?
that's kind of the elephant in the room a little bit.
Which one, Laguna Malibu?
Laguna Malibu is gonna be,
The hillside and what's the dark green?
We called
Open
it
space.
employment center?
Up to that green
Parks
tail.
and plazas, or no?
It's green and brown.
Mountain
Recreational
Canyon
resort.
Residential.
Recreational
then-
resort activity.
I hate these colors.
Yeah, they're so close.
Hillside
I thought this was
agricultural
gonna change.
residential, mountain canyon
I
residential,
think there is an updated map.
Recreational
recreational resort.
resort, is that
activities.
the green one?
It's
That,
like-
that teal one?
Oh, that's what it is, recreation.
Like when you're.
Forest residential, see, that's,
Yeah, again,
I got it wrong.
you said it tonight, Lauren and I agree with you.
Say that again?
It's just that,
it was a holding zone, but now we've confirmed that that's what we want by putting it in our general
I
plan.
even-
So I think that argument goes out the window, by saying this is
I
what we.
also think that's also a,
Who made
if somebody said that
who
comment,
made-
but
who
four
made the
other people
statement?
said something
It's in
different.
2000.
It was quoted but never.
It was
By
the
who?
city planner, so I would say, even if it
2007.
was
City council.
But they
the
can't bind a
council or the
future
mayor,
council.
no sitting council can bind a future council.
Yeah.
If they wanna
Right.
do it, they should have given them a different zone at the time.
Yep,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Okay.
just like law 101, which if it wasn't, Bruce would have said something to you tonight.
Yeah, and it was the planner.
I think it was Glenn something.
I'm Glenn Graham.
Glenn Graham.
Yeah, I must admit, since I have been here, I've always felt like it was fairly intentional, because not only have we maintained the FR 2.5, but we've also removed the ability to do a planned development in the FR
We
zone.
moved clustering.
So,
So it
clustering,
sounded
and
like
we're
we were really
A-cupping a whole
purposeful
bunch of the
about
stuff
what
around
we were
it
doing.
to preserve what this
Yeah.
says, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
So this is better than, I think, maybe it's one of these has planned community, I don't know, for Olympia, maybe that makes sense. I don't
I still don't like
love planned community as a general plan zone, I would almost just make it whatever we think it
We
should
had
be.
thought about dropping in the land use plan
I-
as shown in the MDA,
I would agree.
but, okay.
Does it get
Because I-
convoluted in there or no?
I mean, it'll probably shift a little bit with your approval, right? They have to,
No, yeah, but on,
yeah, but we could do it.
We already have an MDA that gives
Yeah.
them the ability.
Yeah.
We're I think putting it on the map just indicates what our
intention was.
plans for the land uses, same with the rest up there, the
Yeah.
big purple blob in the northwest.
And we don't own it yet, but we wanna annex it, future
We
annexation,
should
right?
show some plan out there that includes, industrial, maybe some
Residential.
residentials,
Yeah.
some recreation stuff, right?
That would push our July public hearing.
So we need to go back to the old general.
We can just draw it.
Give me a crayon, I'll fix it.
Okay.
Sidewalk shot. No,
But, so either July or August, but I think it sounds like the Laguna area we're good with, we'll make those changes to conform with last night. There was a question on, is this one fixed? We had one where we had a employment center up on the side of the hill. And that one's been correct.
Yeah.
So they sold it to a school anyways, so it doesn't really matter, but is a project here.
This one here.
Oh,
So there's two that we haven't talked about. This one real quick. So this is a Gardner Group. This is the one we took in an $11,000 application fee on for a general plan amendment. This is what is currently being shown. This is what they're proposing. And a lot of it deals with topography. So you can see this is a commercial area here. This would be the employment center, kind of more separated from Mountain View, especially the future of Mountain View. It's raised up quite a bit and it doesn't make a whole lot of commercial sense there.
Is this after the pit, after they're done with the gravel pit and stuff up there, or is that?
Yeah, I
They're
don't
starting
think,
Like employment
These guys are
center
getting ready
idea
to
down
do
there.
something.
Okay,
I think it,
I think it's a great location for it.
I'd agree, I wish that we had, maybe in the commercial you could put in a couple.
They're talking maybe
restaurants,
like-
Oh, yeah,
places.
so
I feel
yeah,
like this was
there'll be a
enough.
gas station there, I'm sure, and.
Yeah.
I think that's, cause that's staying commercial down there.
Yeah, and I
So
like
that's what
that,
they
cause
could
that
put
could
the
put some
support in.
services to
Yeah.
support the employment center,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they talked about, there's enough, well, there's not, an extensive amount of dirt that they feel like they could move this and kind of make that property a little more developable
Yeah.
for commercial. So that would be the one request that we haven't talked about yet. And the other one is this Riverside property. So currently the general plan shows it being surrounded, so this is the school property here, this blue one, right? It's surrounded by general retail, employment and office. There is some grade, there's some topography here as well. And,
We talked
kind of a
with
more
Horsley
fitting
about
use would
that,
be
right?
this
Yeah, this is
residential type.
And I think we talked about a plan there, but there just wasn't enough open space.
Well, and I think when you look at the existing general plan, this is matching what the existing one is closer, I think, if you're, I'm trying to find it there. We don't have employment center.
Yeah, we don't
On there
have
right
that there either. That seems a weird place for,
Yeah.
Right.
maybe it doesn't,
Surrounding the school.
yeah.
Well, it's up a side of a hill, it's kind of a weird, there's some topography issues, it's not flat, that's the hard part for me, having, most places, when I've gone after economic development, they want 30 acres and, they want it kind of flat.
Yeah,
That'd be
you're not,
interesting.
I think that's the thing of why it fits residential is you can,
Open the house
all
out, yeah.
all the stuff different that way, but with a commercial or employment center, you need a lot more land moved, earth moved to accommodate bigger
I'm just
buildings.
not sure why we picked that, or why that came up.
So like the commercial, you got the commercial intersection.
Commercial.
I think a lot of this is done kind of at the 30,000 foot level, and as the process has gone on, it's gotten more into the kind of fine grain, fine tuning, and issues of topography come up a little bit more than when you're looking at it from a larger scale.
How to make that the employment center, but it's being built on,
So we're okay with this proposal here,
On the
this
right.
Riverside development,
Oh.
moving this
That's
as
the water tanks.
residential.
You guys ready for that? I thought it said bank too.
I was like,
Tanks.
oh, that's
No, it's
just.
the water tank, sorry.
Okay, good.
We're putting the bank up there first.
It's
elementary
think
school
this
kids.
is appropriate, I think it should be residential,
Okay.
cause
Yeah,
that's,
it's like Zion's bank.
And then
So
this
this
other
is a
one
good
as
plan
well,
there, too.
we're good with this proposal from the Gardner Group,
Yeah.
Yep.
change this, and then this is all coming as an employment center.
I like it.
Is there anything else?
The Gardner,
plots, we
this
already-
is just reflecting what is gonna be coming soon,
Yep.
the garden plots.
Yeah.
Town center, we talked about that. So this should be flip-flopped, so this one, the previous proposal actually reflects the actual uses. This is,
Right.
providing a more
That's a
consistent,
way better plan.
more reflective of the actual zoning.
Yep.
So I'm not sure which one we wanna go with.
The problem is we see all those little A1s surrounded by neighborhood residents, like
Yeah.
it was just jagged lines and carving out individual lots, and so it didn't make any sense when we're talking about a kind of
So
a
the one on the
generalized
right
land
is
use
what
plan. The
we're-
round on the
Okay,
right
that's
is what
that
we've been
fixed one.
suggesting,
So
yeah,
go with this one here?
yeah.
Okay. Yep. That's it? So this just includes the MDA areas, so these hatched areas.
Just see is a lot of it.
That's the 2021.
I mean, how hard is it for us to just
60% of our-
outline some industrial along, I mean, I think we've all envisioned industrial.
Bless you.
I'm just trying to make this a fast, Michael, so we don't have to draw this out.
The
Just
innovation
an
district.
industrial,
We can, I know that Susie was able to get some of those conceptual plans that they've been looking at on their property. We could probably
Throw 'em in
reflect
So I
that.
think that the challenge from the mining operation not the Rio Tinto property people, but the mining operation would be some sort of
Along
buffer.
the line, yeah. That's what we should
protect.
do, industrial is along.
Because that's where they're gonna get the
Manufacturing.
complaints from the trucks and all that.
That was the,
Even if we
that's
just,
what it was.
That was the idea,
That was the,
yeah.
that was.
You know,
what if we were
commitment
just
to
put
it.
some industrial, just continue on our industrial past Bullfrog, all the way along one
All the way
eleven, and we
down
leave
one
everything
eleven.
else like it is for right now. Like I said, I know you don't love that, but that doesn't extend our,
No, I'm fine, it's just as strange to me to say planned community, cause I don't know what that means as a general.
I
plan.
agree.
Well, and it's
See, I don't
outside,
know what you
it's
want with
outside
that.
the city
Right.
boundaries, it's
Yeah.
really
It doesn't really
part of our
matter.
annexation,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't really matter that much.
It is part of our annexation plan.
Yeah, I know, I'm just saying that you would still have an opportunity
Yeah,
to
you would change it.
master
revise
plan
it.
it and zone it on annexation if that were.
But if we throw a conceptual out there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
so do not need to worry about it. Michael, what do you think? To not extend, I don't want to draw, I want this behind us, I think there's this monkey on our,
Maybe
I've
just
been
leave it
looking
planned
at this for
community,
4
let
years.
it go and then.
We're already
Okay.
18 months into doing the new general
Yeah.
plan.
okay,
let's just
but
leave
we'll
it.
reflect the land use that's
Well,
been
I don't care
approved
what you-
for
I'll
hundred
for
years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's great.
That's easy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's move forward as fast as possible, let's get that public hearing and let's get
Okay.
this done.
So Nathan, you were saying that we'll do the public hearing and give you the opportunity to make a decision that same
I
night.
think it's better.
It's up to you, if you have 50 citizens, delay it, if not,
Yeah.
you can.
And I don't think anybody will come
Okay.
out.
We'll let you just tell
They're-
them.
We're not gonna have
I bet two, maybe three. Wanna take bets over and under,
under 3.
under three? I say 3.
Anybody who speaks will be a developer.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll be
I'm gonna make some phone calls.
Okay, one more item, 2.7.
Hurry up.
I'm just looking
Prepare.
forward, to Tammy, you didn't prepare anything on this, right? Cause this was all
No.
me.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, that's your name by it.
Tammy, are you gonna save me here?
no, not at all, I
did
just
you
wanna
do
make sure I wasn't stepping on toes, that's all I was trying to do, just, cause Tammy's been involved in it. So,
They're
quick
gonna
ba-
subsidize the Swampy Hills for us and make it affordable for the city.
that's where we're
So
at.
I just laugh every time I see the word affordable.
Well, and that's why, and that's the whole point of this, background real fast, how this came up. One of our lunches one day, that I got involved with, there was a realtor sitting across the street from, Daryl Robinson. They got talking about their backgrounds, where they come, what they're doing, and Daryl made the comment Rebecca made the comment that had a client looking for, she was weighing between a NEBO offer and a Jordan School District offer. She took the NEBO offer because of housing availability. Daryl's comment was, I'm worried we're gonna start losing educators in our district because they can't even afford to live in our district. So that brought in a conversation, Rebecca brought in a few people. We saw, South Jordan just did a project with Ivory, they call it workforce housing. You know me, I don't like the word affordable housing.
I know.
It's
The
a new,
new word is
attainable.
I drafted that agreement, so.
Okay.
For South Jordan.
Oh, you did? Oh,
there we
okay.
go.
Oh, done, easy.
So I guess I'm looking for, really, I'm just looking for a blessing to kind of move forward with kind of a task force, if you will, just, this kind of bloomed into three meetings, and all of a sudden it's like, we gotta bring this to council at this point. We didn't know it was gonna go anywhere, cause it involved, just residents that kind of drove this at first. And then suddenly it grew legs, and there's interest, but
interest.
Rebecca brought in mortgage people that know how to, and you echoed this too, there's mortgage people that know how to do certain funds, that help
There-
this sort of funding
There's
mechanisms.
Fannie Mae programs that will finance firefighters, school teachers, public service, that kind of stuff, right? And you can get specialized financing, low money down or no money down.
Yep.
And so we brought them to the table, we brought Steve Maddox and Ryan Button to the table, they were willing to be a partner
Partners.
in. So kind of what we're trying to create, and we'll come back to you once we do, we're trying to create, again, I'm just looking for a blessing to kind of pull one more of you in officially, and look for creating this workforce housing program for our city aimed at teachers. Nathan's asked that I include also possibly some of our employees.
I would say that we struggle with our public works and all those
Government
staff
employees, yeah.
and that level of employee, it's hard to live here unless they've lived here their whole life.
Sure,
So police
you and I had
officers,
talked
civil
about
servants.
this,
Yep.
we were talking about
Police officers make lots of money.
we reached out to Ryan Button and discussed an idea of, you had
Well, they
talked
work
about how you
1,800 hours
grew
overtime.
up in a small house, right? And I'm wondering if we could work with Olympia as a development, maybe a couple of home builders, and talk about the viability of a project like that with maybe, 1,000 square foot houses with an unfinished basement. So it's got 1,000 up,
Yeah,
a
but
1,000
what
down,
about-
but it's
isn't that
unfinished,
what
and they
the-
could build it and finish it
The
over
church
time.
was
So,
gonna-
so
isn't
that
what they're
SLR
bringing?
project, that might also be a partner we could.
Yeah,
we could talk to
yeah,
them
'cause
too
they were
about
talking
doing
about that.
something
And
like
the other thing that I was, and I'm not suggesting that they have to do this, but if it's in the not-for-profit leg of the LDS church, there could be a possible land donation towards it, because then that way they can take that, and that drives the cost down if you're not having to pay for the
Pay
land,
for the
so
land,
maybe
which
we
is a
could-
huge
maybe we could
expense.
approach them on something about that out in that area too.
The school district also said they might have some extra
I
land.
guess legally the question is, can you reserve something like that for just,
Deed restrict it.
can you only sell it to certain people, or is that
And
discriminatory?
that's troubling to me.
We
on that
required
too.
deed restrictions for the Ivory project. And Ivory was, their HOA was the enforcer of it, so not the city.
So they, and in that instance, what they did is the city paid the delta, the difference, what Ivory would have made on the open market versus what they ended up agreeing to sell them for.
So the city, I think, contributed about 2 million.
Yeah. So there are
What if it was
projects.
Nine
We're
units.
not,
What if
no,
it
we're
was the
not,
donation
Jared, we're not
from the
recommending that,
land?
just, that's how they,
From
we've
SLR,
got some
something
other
like
ideas.
They had
That would
a,
offset
they had a bunch of CDA money they had to
Yeah.
put towards
Big portion
affordable
of cost,
housing,
right?
but
If you didn't
the
have to
state was
acquire
pushing
the
them on,
land,
so they did this
that's
project.
the lion's share of the construction cost.
Right now, we can
We
take the state or
have a
something,
little.
right?
Right back,
We have
there
a
is a
little
little bit,
So let me just say, the reason I would say this is I think there's an opportunity to build 30 houses, 50 houses, I don't know,
South
something
Jordan
like
needed 10, they did 10, that's
Okay.
all they,
But if you.
But if we did it and it was for police, fire,
what's that?
teachers,
Got a little PR.
public employees, that kind of a thing, I think you could,
The good thing is they're not a protected class, so we're not restricting it from anybody else either, so.
So what South Jordan discovered is that most of their employees did not actually qualify. Once they ran the numbers, said, here's how we're gonna do it, there were few, and those who did, so they didn't end up in a lottery. They were gonna do a lottery system, but it sounds like they
They
had
barely had enough.
just enough with the school district to fill those 10 slots. What I would suggest for this, if you do the task force, is let's just look, we do have to include some additional affordable housing in our next general plan, or we have to add some of this very specifically, so.
How do we not, already qualify for?
I just wanna have
We do. Seriously.
just for purposes of accurate discussion, I would like us, if we're using the term affordable housing, that's all housing. There's an affordability issue for all housing.
Absolutely.
I don't think
The
that's,
problem is, what we need to be talking about is housing that is affordable for low to middle income. That is what
80%
most people are talking about, right?
80%.
80% median or less.
Yep.
That is the target, and that is not affordable housing. That is moderate to low income housing, and we need to be specific about that.
Yep.
So that we're not feeding into the false narrative that goes around and what, we're gonna do something about affordable housing, and so they just throw all this stuff in that has nothing to do with housing affordability.
Just a PR.
Right, it's completely a marketing ploy.
but the nice thing
It's,
is, in this discussion, the very first thing I'd mentioned is, that's the very first thing I said, we don't wanna do this affordable housing that everybody's talking, we wanna truly make this reachable for these employees, it's not,
For
it's not
these,
affordable,
for these target
we're
income
not using
ranges,
that
right?
word to, like I said, kind of feed it.
Well, that was the first thing I thought, Steve, is it needs to be a targeted
Those,
income.
if I, yeah, I have.
Exactly.
Mayor, we need
Yes.
to work together on creating some new
Professions, like-
zoning.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying, so now that's where I'm
So-
saying, if we have the blessing, then now we'll,
Yeah, I would love to be
with
involved.
council's approved,
Not in
But
any of those
It's really
professions.
Saying
It's
if you
right,
are a
it's
teacher
just-
though,
It's a regular
and you're
neighborhood,
making,
it's just
what was it,
peppered
teaching
houses
40,000 a year,
through the
something like
neighborhood
that?
So that it's not.
You can't be a
all
middle income
lumped
family.
together, so
No,
that
you're
everybody
talking,
knows, oh,
you have to
that's-
have,
but yes, I
if
wanna
you're
bring you into discussion.
a single
That's what I
person
mean.
at
Yeah, and we talked about that.
40,000
We wanted
gross
to
a
get
year,
this before we-
your
we're
total
using-
mortgage payment shouldn't be more than about
City resources, so I needed a blessing.
16,000 a year, that's on the high end. That's a 40% debt ratio, you probably need to be more like $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
That's,
And that
that's
doesn't
a
include,
that's under a $200,000
doesn't include your
mortgage.
property tax and
No.
Right,
And when they ran police
mortgage
and fire,
insurance and everything else, right?
their base salary was fine, right, but they like overtime. And so that's where they knock out of that platform there. Or their wife works, or they have
Yeah,
auxiliary.
dual income homes or stuff like that, but I still think, to go back to what Sherry's original concept was, is that we're building 3,500 square foot houses on tiny little lots and trying to say this is what starter home should be.
Yeah.
And it's not. If you're building, you know, a 2 or 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,000 square foot, 800 square foot
And
house
these
that has
ones
a
split homes or
basement
townhomes.
that you could finish over time if you have more kids or you do something, right? That's how it used to be done, right? You buy a small house, you
Well,
build
that's how
on an
it should
extension,
be.
you fill the base, right? And it brings housing into
have
a
a
realm
yard.
of people being able to do it.
Sometimes.
It could be on a,
No,
it could
you
be on
have
a smaller
yard as long as
parcel,
you
and
do
it
a
would still.
smaller footprint.
Small
Yeah.
footprint,
Smaller footprint on the house means that
and it's a
also
hell of
you
a lot
have yard.
cheaper than renting a 3-bedroom apartment.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think you guys know where I'm at on this stuff, so hopefully you trust that I'm moving in the right direction with this. I'm just looking for head nods now that I can take this, and I would like to keep you involved
Get
at some
official,
point,
yeah.
and that you
I would love to do
kinda
it, and I
alternate
would love to
between
be
you two,
involved in it.
and then we'll bring in more staff. So I just need a head nod that I'm okay moving forward with this discussion, then bring back to the council.
And I think it's great,
Todd, I think.
but
Okay.
Todd's here too, I think, let's just line it up.
That's what I said, now I've
That's
got,
really
that's what
cool.
we needed, was basically I need permission to use more staff resources now, so. Okay, Sherry would like permission to go back to 1.2 real quick.
Reopen 1.2, just for future agenda items. Okay, been going
Do
through
you
all
have a
the,
list?
huh?
Is there like 13
No.
of them?
Never
Been
bring
go,
us
but it might take a few minutes. Been going through all the youth council interviews every year without fail, several times. When we ask, what would you bring to the city, or what would you take away from the city that, you know, what would improve the city, or what don't you like, what do you like about the city? And always without fail, there are several kids that will say, we would love it if there was a place for kids our age to go and be together after school, activities, things to do. And every year that happens. And so after they said that today, I was like, why can't we look at that 5-acre civic use thing that we have to do on the edge development down there? Why don't we look at it as a concept to create something? I went and talked to Chief about it after one of my interviews, and I'm like, and he was like, oh, like Kearns is kind of doing something like that.
Yeah, we're missing that 12 to 18 after school.
You know, when
on
The Boys and
weekends
Girls
evening.
Club type of.
Yeah.
But is it
I mean, we don't have the same problems as Curtis does.
interesting?
obviously,
It's coming though.
Yeah.
So
It-
I grew up on military
will,
bases, right? My dad was in the Air Force. For a neighborhood that we lived in, and I don't know, there were 300-400 houses or something like that. There was we called it the center, and it was not a very large place, but it was after schools and then Friday and Saturday nights. They had a bunch of different rooms, and there's like a pool table in one room and a game table in another room, and you know, some things like that. And then there was a larger room, and they had a little DJ booth, and they would do dance on Friday and Saturday nights, and people would hang out. It's literally that thing where kids after school and weekends would have a place to just go hang out with kids, right?
Yeah, I
They had a
asked
little
Chief-
concession stand in there
Yeah, I
and
asked Chief,
stuff
what
like
do
that.
we have now? And he goes, do you want me to name the streets?
Yeah.
Right,
just,
because,
yeah.
yeah.
We have Sol Vista,
regulars.
we have the Rosecrest Pavilion
Yeah.
at 2 a.m, you know.
so, and I think that we could also use that fund that we've established. Maybe we can get donations towards developing that, because I think that there's a lot of people
really
that
good
are
idea.
interested.
Is
Because- Because I think that,
Churches.
yeah, exactly. I think that we talk, part of what I talked to the mayor about the other day was the homeless thing that was on LPC, and I'm like, I'm so tired of having constant discussions about how many more millions and millions of dollars we're gonna put into housing the homeless, and where's the millions and millions of dollars going into preventing the problem in the first place? And to me, this is proactively preventing us to getting to the point where Kearns is dealing with. I'm not saying that as we urbanize, we won't have more and more problems like that, we will. But if we do something proactively before the problems become big, then maybe we prevent a lot of that from our kids.
And we hear over and over and over again, one of the biggest challenges affecting mental health in youth is connection,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Heard
Getting
that
off of
today
their
in
cell phones,
interviews.
doing stuff in person, yeah.
Number one question we
Wi-Fi
have,
free zone.
yeah, the first question we have to you,
It's
what are
these
the
biggest
issues you
problems
see
that-
facing the youth today? And almost all of them will be social media and the isolation that's being felt. And COVID did nothing but way exacerbate the problem. And so I don't know, when we were talking about it, I was like, well, we have this, it's supposed to be for civic use. Maybe we have a public-private
I
partnership
think
and,
that's where we.
because the
We've
kids,
got
when
that
the kids are in
partnership
school,
would
they're
be
not gonna need to use it. So during the daytime up until afternoon or something, maybe it can be utilized for something else.
I'd love to talk about it and then maybe take the idea to some of our development partners in the community and
I can
and
see
the
a barn
nonprofit.
dominium, a nice barn dominium and just have a cool thing.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
if
and
there's
you can
something
put
we
some
could do,
basketball courts,
something
and
simple.
pickleball, I don't know, it just
Is it
seems
just
that,
a large gym and a
Yeah, and
Yeah.
a couple out, like,
couple?
just a couple office classrooms, just something simple, but I think you need to have a partnership. I love the idea, Tooele has one that a mom and dad do, and it's a teen center, but
Programming.
yeah,
Youth
it's,
programming.
you.
It just
you'd
seems
have
like it would be
program,
great
yeah.
volunteer opportunity for members of the youth council to get
Yeah.
involved, help
Yeah.
with program development.
There's some.
I just don't think it's a city ran thing, personally, yeah.
no, but if we
Totally
can, but
agree.
I just think that we need to lead out on, and if maybe our contribution is the land, that's a
Yep.
big deal, right? 5 acres in the middle of Harriman is probably pretty valuable,
Oh, yeah.
and so,
It's
so
right near the
anyway,
high school, right near the elementary school.
yeah, and it's in the area
But
that
it's on one side of the city, and, I mean, we have to remember, we're gonna have thousands and thousands of kids here.
Well, I
Maybe
think
we
you
talk
do-
something over in
We have to
Olympia.
address
I think you do
this.
something, and if it's successful and the model works and it's great, we could reproduce it on
Another one out here.
the other side, you know, do something.
I mean,
like
the
you said,
facility that
Olympia.
we were gonna have over here, I was kind of excited about because I knew where my youth could go and where
Right.
they would be, and I could interface with them there. That fell apart, but this is but one place for a city that probably needs 2 or 3.
We've also got the land out on Midas Creek, right? The park we've got situated, maybe there's a smaller facility there on there, or
No.
something.
Yeah, I mean, there's some opportunities. I think the one thing is it's an investment, and if it's the city operating, you just have to decide where do you get the revenue for that,
Right.
right? And are your residents willing to pay that? If it's a partnership, one of the things we've talked about, eventually we'll need some substations for just because of the way we're shaped.
Yeah, you talked about that
Sandy's got one
today.
that's in a
That
warehouse.
might be
Right, right.
something that shares it at least. I think it's worth doing. Do you want to have a few people run on it for a while, or do you wanna bring it back and have a major discussion? That's the thing I need to know.
I don't know, I just think we're under timeline on that 5 acres, we have.
Let's do a brainstorm session about it. Let's,
So we could do that
We'll
for
put it-
without any.
Put on work meeting.
We'll put it on a
park
space.
Yeah,
let's start some ideas and then,
But it should be a discussion about our community's youth too, right? So
absolutely.
it needs to be probably just a bigger discussion than a building,
Yeah, oh, for sure.
to help us all.
youth
right?
needs.
So true, yeah,
It's true.
but I think we use the youth council, whoever comes in, and maybe that's their
Listen
project
to
for the
them,
year.
right?
Yeah. Why
are we
yeah.
making decisions? We probably don't know.
I
But
don't
to
wanna
me-
make
to me
this
it's
too big
best.
too fast, but could we invite a couple of, maybe middle school or high school, principals to come and talk, you know?
Oh, I bet
get
Eric
you to
and
come
Jim
over
would
and
love to
talk.
come and talk, and Laura.
And just
So-
see what are
so
some
I
issues
think-
you're finding with the youth, what do they need?
So we could bring it to a work meeting, you guys can talk, and if we want to, then go down. I would involve the youth, I think that
That's cool.
makes great
Maybe
sense.
we let the youth council drive some of it as part
Yeah.
of their committee.
Yeah,
Well,
agreed.
we were
So
talking.
we'll put it on
Yeah,
a
we were
work
talking
meeting.
a little bit about, we have individual legacy projects now,
How about
and Destiny, that's in our charter, but Destiny and I were talking about perhaps maybe instead of just individual, maybe we would open that up and just do a big youth, and make this would fit right along with that.
I like
Do
that.
yes,
It's a
combine.
great idea,
My
Sherry.
brain is already shutting off.
Anyway, okay, sorry.
Is that it?
Thank you
But to your
for
No,
point,
that's
Sherry,
great,
accommodating that.
thanks, Sherry.
somebody she made the comment tonight
I
that
don't know, but
that's municipal
we gotta
government at its
address the
best.
youth.
Yeah.
Is really finding ways to serve the community and for what their needs are and identifying the good things happening in our community.
Yeah.
And I think the district
I like
might even
the thought
step
of
up
it.
too, I think we could see something there.
I like where that's going at.
Okay, thank you, love it.
Interesting.
Thank you. Okay, look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Kids.
All in favor?